This is CBN Newswatch.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for CBN Newswatch. I'm George Thomas. Well, it looks like the presidential campaigns are chasing each other around the country. For the second day in a row, both Trump and Biden will make appearances in the same state. Yesterday, it was Florida. Today, it's the battleground state of Minnesota. CBN's Eric Phillips has more.
This will be the president's fourth trip to Minnesota this campaign season as he seeks to flip the traditionally blue state red. He came razor close in 2016, and he's been laser focused on it ever since. Both campaigns holding very different rallies in the Sunshine State Thursday. The president high off some good economic news.
Here in our home state, Florida.
In Tampa Thursday, the president took a victory lap in front of a largely unmasked crowd over the just released third quarter economic numbers, citing the economy grew just over 33% from July to September.
We are doing great. Do you see the number today? 33.1 GDP, the biggest in the history of our country by almost triple, right? Almost triple. No, it's very much bigger than any GDP we've ever had.
But some experts warn the economy is already weakening again and facing renewed threats as confirmed viral cases are surging, hiring has slowed, and federal stimulus help has largely run out. In contrast, former Vice President Joe Biden held two socially distanced drive-in rallies in Florida Thursday, the first in Fort Lauderdale, where he appealed to the state's large Hispanic population, declaring Cuba is no closer to democracy now than it was 4 years ago.
Trump can't advance democracy and human rights for the Cuban people or the Venezuelan people, for that matter, when he has embraced so many autocrats around the world. Started with Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un of North Korea.
The second drive-in rally in Tampa was rained out, but not before Biden made his case there for the environment in an effort to have a different outcome in Florida than in 2016.
We have to vote to meet the challenge of climate crisis, because you know in Florida, it is a crisis.
More than 80 million Americans have already voted absentee or by mail, and that is nearly 60% of all voters who cast ballots in the 2016 election. Both Biden and Trump crisscrossing the nation now, trying to energize the millions more who will cast votes on Tuesday. Eric Phillips, CBN News.
Thank you, Eric. Joining us now to weigh in on the race to the White House is senior CBN News editor John Wogge. John, great to have you on the broadcast. So, okay, both these candidates are crisscrossing the nation. Are these campaign rallies making any difference 5 days out before the election?
I don't know how much difference they're making. I don't think they're making a whole lot, except for just the pyrotechnics of President Trump being before a crowd of thousands, whereas Joe Biden, you know, in the interest of COVID, is appearing in these sparse gatherings. And I think, and there's the mask versus no mask. And so really this is a base election, and they're trying to turn out their base. Yeah. The people who want to kind of open up the country again, the 33% economic growth, that kind of thing, are backing Trump, and they're coming to the rallies. The people who are backing Joe Biden are going to go to the polls anyway. It's just a question of which base turns out bigger.
Yeah. Let's talk about the polls. Lots of polls, most of them, a majority of them showing that Biden has a sizable lead. What do you think about these polls? Are they accurate?
Well, I don't trust them. I don't trust them as far as I can throw them this year, especially. We saw oversampling in the 2016 race with Hillary Clinton. I think we're seeing some of the same thing. And people lie to pollsters now. They don't want to talk to pollsters. I don't see how you get a meaningful result out of some of these things. I just saw a poll on one of our screens here today on one of the networks saying that Biden leads in Ohio by 5 points. I just drove through Ohio. I saw yard signs in eastern Ohio. I know it's anecdotal, but it was 100-1 for Trump. I mean, you know, it may be a close race in Ohio, but it isn't 5 points for Biden right now. And so I just don't know how you come to terms with some of these polls that are being released.
Your predictions for November 3rd?
Well, I predicted that Trump will win re-election with 323 electoral votes, and I've also predicted that the Senate stays Republican and the House goes Republican. So you can put me way out on a limb,
Wow,
George.
you are way out on the limb.
limb.
I'm curious, what is it about this election? I mean, is it the COVID pandemic? So many people, millions of people have already voted either in mail-in ballot or early voting. What's your sense?
It's a mixture of the two. I think a lot of people are still going to show up on Election Day. They're traditionalists. They tend to favor Trump, one would think, but this is such an off-year election.
Sure.
But I just sense, and I may be wrong, that Trump is cashing in on the last-minute momentum. That's what it feels like to me. Don't have anything scientific to base it on.
All right, terrific. You will be watching this all throughout next week. Great to have you here in our headquarters of CBN News.
Thanks, George.
Okay, terrific. Well, in other news, in 2014 midterm election, a GOP wave swept Capitol Hill. Now in 2020, Democrats hope a similar outcome will allow them to claim the Senate majority next week. Democrats currently control 47 seats and would need to net a total of 4 to take control of the upper chamber. Senior Washington correspondent Tara Mergener has this look at the battle for the Senate.
Democrats believe they have a real shot at taking control of the Senate with just 12 seats to defend compared to 23 for the GOP. The balance of power will likely come down to several key races.
We choose unity over division.
We're entering the final turn and approaching the light at the end of the tunnel.
After the presidential race,
Senators voting in the affirmative.
all eyes turn to the Senate.
Donald Trump is an unconventional candidate. It's been a tap dance since Donald Trump got in office, and it may come back to haunt many of these senators in 2020.
According to the Cook Political Report and others, Republican seats in Arizona and Colorado are now the most likely to flip.
Only one governor has been convicted of violating state ethics laws.
Even an ethics scandal involving the Democratic challenger did not help Cory Gardner pull ahead. In Arizona, vocal Trump supporter Martha McSally has fallen in the polls and hopes for an Election Day coattail ride from the president. 7 races are said to be toss-ups.
Democrats have found good challengers. They are well-funded, and they have obviously tried to make this tie these folks to Donald Trump to the extent that they've been able to. But each one of these races has their own unique flavors.
Mr. President, I will vote to confirm Judge Kavanaugh.
Democrats are reminding Maine voters that Republican Susan Collins helped confirm now Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh in 2018. Facing a tough re-election, Collins spoke out early against naming a Supreme Court nominee.
I'm asking you to get out to the polls this year.
The race between North Carolina Republican Thom Tillis and Democrat Cal Cunningham is not only tight,
my campaign is going to be a little different,
but also the most expensive Senate contest, hitting $200 million spent on ads.
There's no place in the world like Iowa.
Early on, Joni Ernst was the one to beat in Iowa, but some believe defending the Trump administration's pandemic policies may have cost votes. Still,
they absolutely cannot divorce themselves from President Trump because they need, these voters are going to turn out in droves to vote for President Trump.
Thank you for the strongest economy of my lifetime.
Lindsey Graham, who started off as one of the safest Republican incumbents in a state President Trump won big, is now in a dead heat to keep his seat. Pundits say Jamie Harrison's unique campaign style and tremendous fundraising advantage have made the difference. In Alabama, polls show Republican Tommy Tuberville poised to unseat Democrat incumbent Doug Jones. Tuberville, a former Auburn football coach, benefits from running in a major pro-Trump state and received the president's endorsement in the primary.
We need to focus on what our economy really looks like.
Michigan's Democrat incumbent Gary Peters crushed his Republican challenger in 2014, but polling numbers show this race against Republican John James, an Iraq War veteran, is a dead heat. While the election may appear to bode more blue,
they don't have as good of a ground game as the Trump campaign and the Republicans. And so if the ground game translates for Trump in 2020, the conventional thinking is that it'll also help some of those senators in a ground game as well to get more voters.
If Democrats can take control of the Senate, the party would have complete control of the legislative branch for the first time since President Obama's first term. On Capitol Hill, I'm Tara Mergener, CBN News.
Thank you, Tara. Up next, we're heading to the Holy Land. We'll tell you how Israelis are reacting to the U.S. election. Stay with us, folks. We'll be back right after this.
Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
I'm Ephraim Graham, and this is Studio 5. Cruise with me as I discover the good things happening in the world of music, sports, television, and movies.
The fact that Ryan Coogler was going to be directing the film, I knew that something special was going to happen.
We'll chat with artists at the forefront of entertainment and explore the connection between popular culture and faith.
I asked my pastor, I said, well, does that mean I'm supposed to be a preacher? He says, well, no, you already have a pulpit.
Watch Studio 5 Wednesday night at 9:30.
Remember for a moment what it was like to be a child. You believed every story you were told. You saw a world full of endless possibilities. What stories will the world's orphaned and at-risk children believe? We believe the Bible tells the only story truly worth believing. We believe that every child should have the opportunity to dream, the chance to take challenges and turn them into possibilities, the chance to stand on the promises of God, to recognize their place in the greatest story ever told. They have their whole lives ahead of them. Theirs is a world of endless possibilities. They are looking for a story to believe. We will tell them that story. Will you join us?
Welcome back, folks, to the CBN Newswatch channel. Well, if you can imagine, all eyes are on the United States next week. So is the entire world. They are watching in anticipation as to who will win the White House. I'm joined now by our Middle East Bureau Chief, Chris Mitchell. One place they are watching this very closely is Israel. Chris, tell us how Israelis are responding to the U.S. elections.
Well, George, I would say that our friend and analyst John Wagi would have a much easier time here in Israel if he was calling the race based on what Israeli Americans are saying and Israelis in general. There was an I-24 poll recently that had Trump by far the favorite. Maybe 60% of Israelis would rather have a President Trump than a President Biden. It's almost the flip, the opposite of what the Jewish vote in the states may look like. Here in Jerusalem, we had a Trump rally, certain reminiscent of some of the rallies there in the United States. People were honking their horns with Trump flags here in the streets of Jerusalem. Now, the Biden people seem to be a bit more subdued here, but they both agree that there's great interest here in this election about what's happening. And by the way, George, there's about 300,000 Israeli Americans here, and so we'll see, if their vote actually might be pivotal in some of the swing states.
Chris, you interviewed former Israeli ambassador to the United States, Michael Oren, about the elections. How does he see the election affecting the Middle East?
Well, he says it's a fateful election. I think, and most everybody would agree to that. It really is going to shape the future of the region. The foreign policy of both candidates is so far different. For example, you would expect that a potential Biden administration would shift away from this has been lately, this historic Abraham Accords. Now, Michael Oren thinks they would go sort of back sort of make their foreign policy here in the Middle East, centered around the Palestinians. One of the big things, George, would be what would happen with the Iranian nuclear deal. Now, if a Biden administration renews that would really change the whole dynamic right here in the Middle East. Ambassador Oren would say that would be dangerous for Israel. I think most Israelis throughout the political spectrum would feel about right now. But right now, here throughout the Middle East and the region, George, it's a holding pattern. People are just literally holding their breath, seeing what's going to happen next Tuesday.
Chris, last 1 minute here. You sat down with U.S. Ambassador to Israel, David Friedman, this week. What were the main topics you guys talked about?
Well, we talked about the Abraham Accords. He agreed with President Trump. There's about 5 or 10 nations here in the region that are talking about the possibility of normalizing relations with Israel. Now, he said a huge statement during our interview. He said he feels the end of the Arab-Israeli conflict is really at hand. That's a huge statement for if you've been following the Middle East for any length of time. And certainly, it's just a really pivotal time here. He's concerned as well about the Iranian deal. And by the way, we'll have an extended interview with the ambassador on today's Jerusalem Dateline. You want to watch that. We also have that analysis by Michael Oren. And we have both the Trump campaign and people that are supporting Joe Biden here in Israel. And so all that's going to be on this week's Jerusalem Dateline. George, you got to be watching.
Okay, I will absolutely. Chris, thank you so much. As Chris mentioned, you can see more of the news from the Middle East from Chris and his team tonight on the CBN News channel at 9:30 Eastern. Okay, still ahead. Business owners are losing their life's work because of COVID. See what they are doing to stay afloat.
On October 1st, 1961, history was made when a tiny station began transmitting the first signals of the Christian Broadcasting Network.
CBN, the Christian Broadcasting Network.
And now, a new era has begun with the all-new CBN News Channel.
Just moments ago, the Iron Dome intercepted an incoming rocket right on the Gaza border.
And ministering in this area, spiritual warfare is definitely involved.
A 24/7 news network, bringing you the news you want from a source you can trust.
In Kenya, 40% of the medical services are actually provided by these Christian hospitals.
Let's talk about the economy.
Believers here are joining together to win people to Jesus Christ.
All your favorite shows now in one place. Go to cbnnewschannel.com to find out how to get the CBN News Channel on your TV all day, every day. CBN News. Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
Welcome back to CBN News. Lisa Jones is a self-made woman. Her life's work has been building a successful company. Now she and countless other small business owners stand to lose everything because of the pandemic. Coronavirus relief is dead in the water. So how long can these struggling business owners hold out? Caitlin Brunk brings us their story.
Businesses have cut costs, made sacrifices, and gotten creative. Still, nearly 8 months into the pandemic, many now face permanent closure.
Retail is you buy everything on the front end and then you make your money on the back end. So we've had to live off credit cards through the pandemic. We haven't had the money coming in. So if I've got to crawl out of this hole, what do I do?
Lisa Jones owns a boutique in Bentonville, Arkansas.
Rather than taking a paycheck the last few months, Jones opted instead to keep her staff paid. That helped stretch her government stimulus money through June. But after a struggling summer, October brought a new low.
We are late on rent currently, which is really hard to swallow. I've never in my life not paid something on time. I didn't take out a loan when we first opened this business, so it now feels very suffocating to know that this could be the end of something that, you know, was started off so debt-free.
Jones is closing her brick-and-mortar shop at the end of the month, focusing instead on increasing online sales. If that falls through, she will likely close down permanently.
You still want to feel like you're that person, that woman that built something on their own. So when you have this fear of it closing in such a unexpected way, you know, you hope that if you were to close that it was on a good note.
According to a new Alignable poll, 36% of small consumer retail businesses might not make this month's rent. Meanwhile, the restaurant industry faces an even more uncertain future.
I feel like I've been on a merry-go-round that just kind of keeps getting faster and faster, like when we were kids, and who was the last one to hang on before they threw you off?
Michelle Pitot is the chef and owner of the Bastille Brasserie in Arlington, Virginia. She says without more government help, a majority of her industry won't survive the winter.
You know, yeah, I'm asking for a handout in some ways. I've tried everything I can. This isn't to pull yourself up by your bootstraps, make something of yourself. I've already done that. I just need help over the bump. And this is a really big bump.
With colder weather approaching, Pitot is trying to keep her outdoor seating area comfortable for customers as temperatures drop. But with the unpredictable northeast weather, she's bracing for the possibility of a massive decrease in those willing to dine out.
It's a different kind of stress than just a day-to-day run the business kind of stuff. You know, get it done. Let's keep moving forward. This is a question mark every day that looms. You know, are we doing it right? Are we keeping up? Are we going to make it?
Alignable CEO Eric Groves says that when it comes to keeping small businesses afloat, consumers are the long-term solution.
Right now, the only way that we can get our local economies to recover is to really focus on shifting our purchasing behavior back to businesses within our local community so that money can start spending again and supporting the economy.
Congress remains deadlocked when it comes to another federal stimulus package, and the likelihood of relief before the election grows dimmer by the day. Caitlin Burke, CBN News.
Thank you, Caitlin. Coming up, encouragement for those fighting COVID-19. The Duck Dynasty clan share their experience with the virus. That story in a moment. Stay with us.
Hey, if you're tired and exhausted all day, you can't think clearly, and you really just need a cup or even a pot of coffee to get through your day, then join me, Dr. Josh Axe, for this new series where I'm going to teach you how to transform your diet and use essential oils and supplements to get a better night's sleep.
Wake up to your best life. Call 1-800-700-7000 to get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
It's about the competition.
I kind of put that pressure on myself, and I think people had expectations.
It's about overcoming.
We use this phrase all the time, keep chopping, keep practicing hard.
It's about going the distance.
You know, I think as a father, it's my job, to lead. Just be the best husband and father I can be.
Watch Going the Distance with Sean Brown Saturday night at 7:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Orphans Promise is committed to loving and serving at-risk children, to helping keep families together, and to creating opportunities for strong and sustainable communities around the world. We're working in over 60 countries around the world, and with your help, we can do even more. There's an old African proverb I love that says, if you want to run fast, run alone. But if you want to run far, run together. At Orphans Promise, we want to run far so we can touch the lives of as many orphaned and vulnerable children as possible. But we don't want to go alone. We're out to change the world, one child, one family, one community at a time. Will you join us?
Welcome back, folks. You're watching CBN News. Sadie Robertson says she is fresh out of COVID-19 and is using her podcast and social media to encourage others dealing with the virus. Sadie, who is pregnant, says she was hospitalized earlier this month after her diagnosis and calls it, quote, one of the most challenging things. She invited her mom, Corey, and her sister, Bella, who also had COVID, to share their experiences on her podcast. Whoa, that's good. The Duck Dynasty family encouraged listeners to not underestimate the virus and to do whatever it takes to protect yourself and other people. Sadie says this is a time for empathy and kindness and encourage people to get to know Jesus, saying, quote, it's so nice to have a savior and point of hope in the midst of a really trying time. This week, the Los Angeles Dodgers won their first World Series title since 1988. One of the players, by the way, did something that is raising a lot of concern. Joining me now is CBN Sports reporter Sean Brown. Sean, so what did this gentleman do exactly?
Good morning, George. Well, yes, just before the 8th inning of Game 6 of the World Series, Dodgers third baseman Justin Turner, his test results came back, his daily test results came back and tested positive for COVID-19. He was removed from the game as soon as, they got word on the field. It called down and said, hey, we've got to pull him. Obviously, the Dodgers go on to win their first World Series championship since 1988. And during the team celebration, he ignores his isolation, ignores protocol, and makes his way back to the field to celebrate with the team for the on-team celebration. He's posing for photos, specifically the team photo, completely ignoring protocol. And so that's raising a lot of eyebrows. And look, I get it. You're a 35-year-old veteran. You've played, for several seasons in the league. You might not make it back. You're excited. This moment only comes around once. However, you put everybody in jeopardy going back on the field. And so, yes, there's a lot of concern. Yeah. It's raising a lot of eyebrows.
Yeah, he was wearing a mask, by the way. I'm curious, Sean, why wasn't he stopped? And could this set a dangerous precedent in sports?
Well, I think, as I read, security did try to stop. He just kind of ignored, he kind of ignored what they were saying and just made his way to the field. And again, I get that. I understand your excitement. You're like, look, they're not going to take this moment away from me. But yeah, there could be repercussions on the back end of this. Right now, there's an investigation. MLB is conducting an investigation into the situation. The Los Angeles Health Department is, making sure that they're in quarantine. Both the Rays organization and the Dodgers organization are at a 14-day quarantine to make sure that they're in isolation, making sure that there are no other cases. And there haven't been any other cases so far. But we're waiting as this investigation develops. So we'll have to see on the back end.
All right, terrific. Sean, thank you so much as always. Hey, stay safe and have a great weekend, okay?
You too, buddy.
All right, folks. Well, that is it for this edition of CBN Newswatch. We wish you a fantastic Friday and a fantastic rest of the day. From all of us here from the headquarters of the Christian Broadcasting Network in Virginia Beach, Virginia. Have a fantastic weekend. Goodbye and God bless.